Have you ever wondered why no matter how hard you work, getting rich feels like an impossible dream? Well, it's not your fault. And that's because today with like the cost of living crisis that we have going on, as well as the rising amount of taxes that we have to pay, as well as just all these politicians fighting for power, is constantly externally robbing us from the ability of getting rich. On top of that, our biology is working hard against us, whether it be like friends and societal pressure of having to have the nicer stuff when it's robbing yourself from even being able to accumulate wealth, to our cognitive biases that get in the way of ourselves and limiting our beliefs, as well as like just any of the societal norms that we grew up in, especially if we were lower or middle class in places like the US. It's the system's built against us. And so let me tell you about a story that we'll call, for the sake of this video, Jake. So Jake is somebody who always dreamt of becoming rich. He was somebody who admired self-made millionaires. He had posters of Lamborghinis on his walls, and he just always dreamt of becoming somebody very well off and very wealthy. And, you know, he got a decent job at a marketing firm after college, and he was able to earn a steady salary from this job. And from the outside looking in, he was successful. He got the degree, he was able to get a job. He wasn't necessarily rich, but he was able to provide value to the world, and he was able to provide value to this corporation, and he was able to get paid in return. But it was never enough to be able to actually generate a reliable income that was going to allow him to actually unlock freedom. If anything, it just felt like he was in a prison cell that was a cubicle instead of an actual jail cell with like bars. And instead of the bars, it was a computer screen and four walls around him. And everything was very monotone and mute, like everything's white, and it feels like a prison basically. And this friend of mine, he spent his paycheck on like living lavishly, like just buying the designer clothes, like whether it be the Gucci belt or Louis Vuitton stuff, and it was just spending it on dumb ways to make himself be perceived as wealthy. And there's even, I think, a statistic that majority of those brands, I think it's like 90% of designer brands like a Louis Vuitton or a Gucci, are bought by people that are upper middle class. They're not even typically bought by the extremely wealthy. Typically, people that are extremely wealthy buy from more brands that are a lot more low-key and more subtle. Like you'll see me pretty often wear Loro Piana or Zegna or some of these other brands that you can't even tell that they are from Target or from some designer brand, but it's the qualities that make the difference. And it's just, anyways, moral story, this guy was spending his money stupidly. And honestly, his procrastination got in the way of him being able to actually financially do something for his life. Doing things like, just wasting a lot of time scrolling through YouTube or Twitter or Instagram, just like following a bunch of girls that have nothing, like following a bunch of Instagram baddies, never actually talking to them, always seeing all these posts about starting your business and going and doing his own thing, and never actually doing anything about any of the information, and instead just kind of like a mental masturbation on consuming and watching this content. And he had this fixed mindset. He had this limiting mindset. He thought that, like people that were wealthy were extremely lucky or they inherited it, and that people that are rich are assholes. And just, me hanging out with him and grabbing coffee with this guy one day after, he kind of was like, Devin, like, how do I get rich like you? Like, how do I do it? And just listening to him, his conversations and how he went about things it was all working against him. And I don't think that's really his fault in any way, shape, or form. It's just, I see that pretty often when I help people get extremely, like, start making their first good money online and then start to get really rich. Is typically it has nothing to do with them not doing any sort of specific tactic or strategy. If anything, it's just how they talk to themselves and how they perceive the world is a lot of things that are holding themselves back. And Jake was no different. He was somebody that was, constantly just bad mouth, like just saying how, envious he was of these people with money, and also how rich people are assholes, how it's impossible to get rich. And it's just, even if if there's a sliver of possibility, just that conversation of saying to yourself that it's like impossible to get rich was holding him back from, being able to unlock these other areas of his life. And not to and to even go a little bit further was just his friends were all people that were doing nothing with their lives. There were people that were still living at home with their parents in their late 20s, early 30s. There were people that were doing drugs, smoking weed, and had like no actual life and weren't doing anything with their life. They'd never left their hometown. They were people that just lived within a 50-mile radius their entire lives and never went out and did anything. And he's coming to me like, Devin, why am I not rich? Well, it's like, first of all, you got to look at your friends. The conversation that I had with them was a few things. Was you got to look at your friends and look at your circle. Who are the people that you're hanging out with? If you're hanging out with a bunch of people that are business owners, whether they own donut shops or a construction company or YouTube channels, you're going to be talking about business just pretty frequently. It's just the normal conversations. Like, you just find yourself, this is, I started doing like pink sprinkles instead of red sprinkles, and it boosted our conversions by 10% at our donut shop. Those little conversations, when you constantly having those, and those are in your environment on a regular basis, it's pretty inevitable that you'll probably become good at business or get into business, because there's nothing else to talk about. And it's just, that's what you get good at. That's the thing to talk about. You see that same exact thing in other social circles that are unproductive. When it comes to, a bunch of stoners that are smoking weed, you're talking about, oh, dude, I smoked this weed the other day. It was insane. It's the same societal conversations that we have as, human beings. It's just some of them are productive and help elevate us and help lift us, versus some of them, they just help us get a better high. And so which of these two do you think is going to be more productive for yourself? And that's exactly what I asked Jake. And so he was like, damn, you're right. And then on top of that, it was just how he perceived wealth and riches and money. A lot of his perceptions were conversations like, I can never be rich, becoming rich is lucky. And I explained to him that, do you think that these beliefs serve you? Like, you saying that rich people are assholes, what does that say about you if you become an asshole? Well, I'm going to be an asshole. Well, of course. Do you like assholes? No, the word has a pretty negative connotation a lot of times. Unless you think assholes are cool, you're never going to become rich. For me, a lot of times what I had to do was those words like, this guy's a douchebag, or that guy's an asshole, or that guy's pretentious, or that guy is whatever. I just said, cool. That's a cool thing, right? That's good. Like, I assumed a positive heuristic, like a positive trait around what is commonly a negative trait. And this allowed me to break from the societal norm and allow me to view becoming rich and becoming successful and becoming all these things that are typically for the broke person's mindset, thinking that these people are assholes or douchebags. I'm like, cool, yeah, I want to be a douchebag. I want to be a rich asshole. Why? Because I don't have to deal with poor problems. I don't have to deal with broke people problems. If that's what it means to not have to deal with broke people problems, cool. I'm an asshole. I'm a douchebag. I don't care. And so it was kind of the changing of those beliefs and those mindsets, really realizing that you can choose the positive perception of the words or the negative perception of the words and using them to your favor. And then also making sure that you're describing rich people or what you want to be, whether it be an Olympic athlete, whether it be a successful businessman, a successful husband, a successful father, a successful wife, whatever it is, make sure that you're talking about these people that are those things very highly of them. Because if you're going to try to become that person or you become that person, you'd rather think that they're really freaking cool and really awesome and just a badass, right? Because that like helps serve you. So this conversation with Jake was very eye-opening. It was a conversation I have pretty often with a lot of people. And I remember just the expression on Jake's face after this conversation. He was sitting there like, whoa, I never thought of these things this way. And we ended up staying in touch for the following weeks, following months. And I remember like we didn't gonna have this conversation too much. It was just kind of, hey, how's everything going? How's your family? Because, we're pretty close. But we kind of just went our separate ways. Come back, flash forward 3 months later. I run into him. We end up going and grabbing coffee again, and we go and sit down. And I was like, "Hey, how's everything been since we last talked?" And he's like, "Devin, my life has changed. Like, I have an amazing girlfriend. We're even talking about possibly going on some beautiful trips together, possibly getting married. Also, my financial situation. I quit that shitty job that I was at, and then now I am actually now he was starting like an e-commerce brand or a business that he was doing." And he was even making his first $20,000 a month off of it. And then on top of that, he just had such a more healthy, like better outlook on life after our previous conversation. Like you could just tell that it was like a weight was lifted off of his shoulders that he's been carrying for a very long time. And it was this stress of like, I'm never going to be rich. I'm never going to be wealthy. And like all these kind of these beliefs and these thoughts around him were just completely vanished. They were no more. It was just as if they were just kind of completely gone. And on top of that, he found like new friends. He found a mentor that helped him out with his e-commerce store. He had a mentor that helped him out with his relationship. He surrounded himself with a bunch of other business owners and created his own network, his own circle of people where they bounce ideas off of on a regular basis. And he created one on Discord, and then they ended up meeting in person. And it was his environment became what he wanted to be because he understood that the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with is who you become. And so he was able to understand this, and he comprehended it on such a deep level that he changed everything. Instead of investing money on consumer debt and stupid consumer items, instead he was investing his money on knowledge gain, like gaining more knowledge and becoming more efficient and more effective in business and life, and becoming a more capable, more skilled, and more valuable person in life. And so it feels impossible to get rich because you rob yourself entirely. Now, I will say there's environmental things that are going on where it's just like, like the education system that we live in today is built to work against us. Horace Mann, who is the founder of the modern day educational system in the early 1900s, is the guy who set up the education system today based off of the Prussian educational system. And he got the Prussian educational system, which was basically built to develop good employees and good soldiers, ultimately for the Prussian War. And so he took this mindset and this philosophy of education and training, young men into becoming a skilled employee, and he applied that to the American modern day education system, which is pretty much the education system that we use in the majority of the world now these days. And so you'll see like pretty often that a lot of lower and middle class people go to these public schools. And in these public schools, they're not teaching you about how to become wealthy. They're not teaching you how to, like, any sort of financial literacy whatsoever, how to leverage the bank's money to make money, or, how to become somebody that's highly skilled and worthwhile of making a ton of money. But instead, it teaches you how to become disciplined. It teaches you how to follow rules. It teaches you how to fit into a box. So that way you are good at taking instruction and applying that instruction for your boss. And so it's more created these days, the modern educational system, to create a bunch of employees in the system, a bunch of cogs to fit into the machine. It's not made to make a bunch of people wealthy. And so the beliefs and the mindset that you have right now, which obviously if you're watching this, you're probably not rich yet, it's not your fault. These are built into the DNA of the modern day educational system. And that's why like rich people just don't send their, like extremely wealthy people. Obviously you probably know some rich kids at your school, but extremely wealthy people, I'm talking about people that have a net worth of over $100 million, they don't send their kids to public school at all. What they do is they either send them to a private school that was surrounded by other ultra high net worth individuals, or they hire their own teachers and their own people that teach their students on salary. Like I literally have friends that build $50 million a year companies that they just hire a teacher that works with their kids and then like one or two of their friends. That's it. They don't go to public school. They don't go do any of that shit. They're purely raised and based in the mindsets of actual wealth and how to actually build wealth. Whereas the rest of us, the other 99.9% of the world, don't get these lessons at all. We just get to learn how to play with the Pythagorean theorem and how, who won the Civil War, all these things that just don't even matter. If anything, it's just, they teach us how to like listen to the freaking bell that rings on the announcement system, to go to class and to make sure that we're in the right places at the right time, and turning and handing in assignments that were given to our teacher and making sure that we're getting a good grade. Nothing to do with actually making money. So getting rich is not our fault. Like it feels impossible to get rich because of all these beliefs that were put onto us. And so how can we work again? Like how can we go against this and actually become wealthy? I will be honest, you have to want it. And so what are those things that take it? So first of all, it is realizing the cognitive biases that you face. Negativity bias is one of like the strongest controlling biases that we have. And that is when you see things that are negative, like let's say something that's on the news or whatever it may be, these things that are played on these places, it makes us perceive the world as negative. And so if we only see like negative things, we just only think that the world is negative. So when we see that the cost of living is going up, we think that there is no money. We think there is a shortage in the world. Whereas at the same exact time, over $500 million are printed every single day. So if you're thinking the cost of living is going up and that's getting in the way of you being able to actually live your life, it's actually a big, huge belief that's built up that's working against you, because in reality there's actually more money than ever before. It's just in the hands of the select few that are in the most amount of power. Those are the people that went to these more private schools and weren't a product of the system that we currently have. And so we need to be cognizant of these beliefs. And then the other thing is we need to be cognizant of opportunities that lay in front of us and cognizant of the things that put us in the right direction of actual success and of actual wealth. And so what does that look like? That looks like constantly watching videos that are putting the habits and the mindsets and dumping into our brains what other people who have been successful are doing. And that's one of the reasons why I make these videos. So I can just give you kind of like what my conscious stream of thought is and dump it into you. So you just are unconsciously listening to these videos or actively listening to these videos, and you're taking it all in, and you can just over time, the more amount of time that I spend with you in your ears, the more that you're able to become a much more capable person. You're able to download the thoughts that I have of being able to make millions of dollars a year at this point, and you're able to take all of that and apply it to your own life, and just my own thoughts become your thoughts, and you get to actually kind of take the blueprint and apply it to yourself. The next thing is just understanding, we have to work extra hard of just the basic success principles to become successful, because we have to unlearn all the bad, nasty habits that built us the way we are. And now we have to dump and add onto ourselves and stack onto ourselves what are the basic success principles. And so what that is defining what it is our vision is, and what is it that we actually truly want to become. Most of you probably know what it is, what you want to become, even if it's not necessarily to go send rockets off to Mars or something like that. You at least know that you want a watch, or you want a car, or you want to go somewhere. And that's fine. I know materialism isn't necessarily what the epitome of success is, but it is at least a focus to get started. It is a direction to start heading towards that will start opening more doors and more opportunities for us. So pick whatever it is, something that has a price on it, preferably, maybe it's something that's worth 20 grand, 50 grand, $100,000, and start working towards being able to afford that thing. And so what you want to do is set your vision, and then what you want to do is you want to find the things that can actually get you to that vision. What I will tell you is working a job will not get you there unless you're willing to wait 20 years, 30 years. What I will say is you need to find things that create leverage and are able to do it, or have a proven track record of other people having success. And so that's why I teach people how to do faceless YouTube channels, because there's countless amount of examples of people that started from nothing, and in the span of like 3 to 6 months, or worst case a year, are able to make $10, $20, $30, $50,000 a month from their business. So you want to find a vehicle that is able to, the more time that you put in, the more money you're able to make. Because most places, or in the more skilled you become, the more leverage you become, the more employees that you have that are skilled working for you, the better the ideas, the more views that you get. If you can make a piece of content that can reach one person, but then also it can reach 1 million people, that's leverage. And if you can create these things that create leverage, then you are setting yourself up for success in an actual position to be able to actually go and make some real money. And so, if you do it the way where you're trading time for money, what you want to do is try to get out of that as soon as you possibly can. Start setting aside the extra money. Instead of spending the money on Gucci or Louis Vuitton or whatever dumb shit people buy these days, instead set that money aside and invest it into your business. It could be $100 a month. It could be $500 a month. It could be $2,000 a month. It just depends on what you're able to set aside. But whatever you can just consistently invest, and you do that for the next 6 months, the next year, there should be no reason the next year you should be completely detached from the system, completely out of your job, and entirely living a life on your own terms and a life of freedom. That's what I did. I took every dollar that I had, that I saved up while I was going to college, and I put it into investing in myself. My parents thought I was stupid. Everybody around me thought I was the dumbest person ever. I was a big idiot for taking all this money and putting it into these things of developing my skill sets and my knowledge and my ability to make more money. But now I make hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. Because I've stacked up this knowledge and these skill sets, I've put myself into high leverage positions. I am able to get millions of views off my YouTube videos. I am able to generate lots and lots of money because I have an entire team and businesses and products that are scalable, and I can have it to where, the same product that I have, I can do it for 5 people, I can do it for 1,000 people. All I need is more traffic. And because I'm in that position, because I have the opportunity of leverage and the opportunity of vehicle, because I'm applying leverage and a vehicle to my opportunity, because I'm applying my vehicle, or I'm applying a good vehicle and leverage to my vision of being able to do some great things, all I have to do is just put in the work at that point. And me putting in the work isn't the same as me working for $100 an hour at some, lame ass job. Or let's say most of you guys probably like $20 an hour more realistically. It's not like I put 8 hours in and I get $160 out. Instead, it's like I put 8 hours in, and I'm setting myself for every day for the next 6 months, 12 hours in for every day for the next 6 months. And I'm setting myself up to be able to make tens of millions of dollars a year for the rest of my life. And that's because of the opportunity that I set myself up in. I've set it up so time is my best friend. The more time I do this, the more successful I am at doing this. And the more grand scale of things, like the further that I'm able to go because of all this. And that is why I'm able to become rich. It's no longer you can make like 10 grand a month and be fine, especially after taxes, after, just the cost of living. It just doesn't even make sense. You have to make like $30,000-$50,000 a month to even be able to breathe these days. If you're living in a decent city, if you're cool with living in the middle of buttfuck nowhere like Kansas, it's different. You probably only need like 5 to 10 grand a month. But if you want to live like a decent lifestyle in like anywhere in the world, you need some like $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 a month. And so go find a vehicle, build leverage. Make sure that every single day you're focusing on that vision. I'm not talking about some woo-woo bullshit manifestation thing. I'm talking about putting your mindset, like, start kind of like actually planning the details of what this actually looks like in this dream life. Like, do the numbers. How many views do I have to do to make this much money? How many $1,000 products do I have to sell to make this much money? Do the math. Build the vision, like actual SMART goals. I'm not talking about some woo-woo bullshit. I'm talking about like actual, like, okay, this much and this volume and this amount of time frame. And apply yourself towards that every single day over the next 6 months, the next year, the next 2 years. And there should be no reason you should be rich as hell, as long as you're not being procrastinating and not actually making progress. As long as you actually do the work, even if it's 30 minutes a day, an hour a day, 2 hours a day, and you're able to do that for the next year or two, there should be no reason you're detached from the system. You have a completely different set of mindset, like a completely different set of beliefs, and you should be on the track to freedom. This is the exact same prescription that I give to other people that are trying to detach themselves. And I've helped hundreds of people do this process, and I'm just giving you raw the exact process that I give to everybody else. The tactics and the strategies, that's the easy part. You can go find that stuff. Just look up how to upload a YouTube video, how to come up with video ideas. If you want actual help, go watch some of my videos where I actually break that down. Or if you see one of my ads, go click on that and just hire my team to help you. It's that simple. So that's what I got. My name is Canup. Thank you guys for watching this video. We'll see you all in the next one. Peace.